She could already see the first group of union people who were marching to rally at the Seattle Center, a fairground and park within the city. Their route would take them through the intersection where she was stationed, and her assignment was to make sure they turned south on 4th Avenue. No one had figured that the corner would be a battleground between kids who thought they were Che Guevara and cops who were dressed like Darth Vader. Soon there was a mass bedlam of people running and not knowing where they were running to, as she described the scene years later. Union members, environmentalists, and others who had planned to protest peacefully arrived at Jones's Corner unsure of where they should go. People told stories of how it feels to be tear-gassed, she said. They had a burning sensation in the back of their throats and in their eyes. She told them to go ahead if they still wanted to go to the rally, but they should understand that they might be tear-gassed or caught between the rioters and the riot police. As she later remembered, members of industrial unions who had lost jobs to low-wage competition overseas, including the Teamsters, the Steel Workers, and the United Auto Workers, were very passionate and committed to go that route, no matter what. If they wanted to go back to somewhere safer, she suggested ways they could avoid the mayhem, and she and other union activists walked with them for a city block or two to make sure they had safe passage through the police lines. All the while, she was thinking about one person in particular, her 18-year-old daughter, Kristen, who was in her first year in college. Suspecting that there might be disturbances, Jones had advised her to go to the labor march to be safe. But Kristen chose to go on to the student march, and her mother was worried that while the police might hesitate to tear-gas burly blue-collar workers, they might have trouble distinguishing between grungy college kids and rowdy anarchists. Fortunately, Kristen was not hurt that day. Experienced with emergencies. For Jones, responding to emergencies, whether on the city streets or in a hospital ward, had become second nature. Soft-spoken and youthful in appearance, she had moved from her hometown of San Francisco to Seattle in 1976. Soon after, she went to work at the Group Health Hospital in the acute care unit, where patients with urgent conditions such as heart attacks or bullet wounds were rushed after arriving at the emergency room. She became a telemetric technician, reading the heart monitors that revealed whether a patient was in need of immediate care. She would work 21 years at the hospital, eventually becoming active in the union. At first, she looked askance at unions. A carpenter by trade, her father had grown up in Texas and moved to California. Usually, the local unions had refused to accept him, or any black man, as a journeyman or even an apprentice. But she saw that the hospital and the union were very different. Whites, blacks, Hispanics, and Asians all worked there and were welcome in the union. Her tendencies as a joiner and an activist took over. "When I had problems, I filed a grievance," she recalled. "The union rep came to the hospital to visit and talk to me about becoming a union steward." She accepted. By the 1980s and 1990s, most unions bore little resemblance to what had always been the unfair stereotype, that they were only for blue-collar workers, overwhelmingly male, resistant to change, and indifferent to organizing new members, especially workers who aren't native-born white men. Indeed, union membership had grown most rapidly among the very workers who were furthest from this typecasting: women, African Americans, Latinos, professionals and technicians, and workers in healthcare and the service sector. Moreover, a new generation of labor activists was emerging who understood that the well-being of workers and their unions depended upon the success of the enterprises in which they worked. Very often, these activists carefully studied the workings of industries such as healthcare, aerospace, and information technology, and became at least as well informed about their company's problems and prospects as were the executives whom they faced at the bargaining table or debated in the news media. So, after taking her first step toward becoming a committed unionist, Jones, like many other skilled workers, never looked back. While continuing to work as a technician, she became a shop steward, the union's representative in the acute care unit, filing grievances on behalf of her co-workers. Then she became a full-time representative for her union, Local 6 of the Service Employees International Union, SEIU. By the time she joined the staff of the Central Labor Council, she was experienced at organizing picket lines, demonstrations, and other mass protests. But unlike the anarchists, she learned how to keep the actions orderly, to make sure no one got hurt, and to portray the unions in ways that would appeal to, not antagonize, the news media and the general public. By the fall of 1999, Jones was one of Seattle's foremost liberal activists, a leader in the Central Labor Council and in what the AFL-CIO called its constituency groups, representing women and African Americans. She was widely mentioned as a potential candidate for the city council.